in terms of talking about alternative distribution, I just prefer that term to self-distribution because to me, self-distribution is this notion, well, A, it has a very bad brand, and B, it just feels like throwing your phone up on YouTube and not making money on it, or spending money to four-wall a phone and never getting it anywhere further. Whereas alternative distribution, there are some much better tools available today, and these guys all represent some of the places that have them. The traditional model, just for anybody just to start from zero, is just that you essentially go to some sort of distributor. They, in essence, license your film for an advance for a certain period of time, usually something like the rest of your life, and for certain territories. And the problem today is that there are so many films, there's not that many more places where those people show them, and so the amount of money that we're getting offered for these films is very, very low, and nothing like the money that we're spending to make them. Whereas in an alternative model, you're keeping the rights and the control of your film. You're going out there and doing audience development yourself in some way, and you are trying to connect with the audience and make money yourself. And the advantage to this is, of course, that you get to keep the rights and control of your film. There's fewer gatekeepers to jump through. But the disadvantages being that you have to go do the work, you have to find your own audience. If you don't make any sales, you don't make any money at all.
You sound like the dad of a teenager right
now. Oh no,
I'm
sorry!
No. Like, with those rights comes responsibility.
This is the story of my life. I'm just trying to be really fast. I'm trying to be really fast so I can talk as least as I can. And that marketing costs money and it can be expensive.
But you also get more percentage back to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's where you see, if you're successful, you actually can see the fruits of that success, which I think is the thing that doesn't happen in traditional distribution. The bar is so high for the film to make money before you see anything more than the small things you get. That 0.some% of films ever reach that threshold. And then the last thing I'll say before I turn this over to everyone else is just that I look at this as the fact that, in a way, some recent articles that you've read in places like New York Times and Slate.com are true in that independent film is kind of dead. The model that we have had up till now is really broken. There's no logical reason to invest in it, and so it doesn't exist as an entrepreneurial activity anymore. But there's an opportunity to do something else. Films are cheaper to make, and there's all kinds of great tools to reach people directly, and I'm kind of waving a flag to say that maybe we can do something instead that's more like entrepreneurial film, where we actually own content, and we actually find ways to connect with people directly, and hopefully monetize our own content, because I know I want to do this stuff, and not just a day job. That's enough of that. The first thing I want to kind of throw to you guys is traditional distribution, going out there and finding somebody to buy your film is a very traditional business-to-business model. You have to impress a very small number of people. You go to film festivals, you try to reach them, you try to get distributors to be interested in you and buy your film. Whereas alternative distribution, is a business-to-consumer model. It's much more like we're suddenly Procter & Gamble when we're selling soap. It's cool. There's a lot of great tools to reach audience, and that's where you guys come in. But my big question to start with is, how can we as filmmakers break through all of the background noise, all the mass media and all the other filmmakers and all the other projects to reach a specific audience and sell our film?
Do you mind me asking that question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please start with that. I blew it.
So how many of you guys are filmmakers? You're all filmmakers in the room, right? So how many of you are in production at the moment? Okay. How many are you getting ready for distribution for a film? All right. And then how many of you are documentarians? And how many are animators? And how many do narrative? Okay. Just so we get a sense of what we're talking about.
Thank you. And now that we're here, how do we win in the
concept of reaching audience that Steven Spark is experimenting with is the idea of testing and knowing who your audience is, or you think you know who your audience is, but it might not be your actual audience. So testing those ideas in advance through crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is, obviously some people see it as a lot of shouting, I need this, I need that, gimme. But the way that we see it is really, we all work in film, but the people who we want to see our film and the people who we want to contribute dollars to our films hopefully aren't the same echo chamber of people. We want to break beyond that, right? So I think that peeling back the curtain a little bit and kind of showing the process that goes into it, like on our platform we use a wish list, so you're actually showing all the things that you actually need in order to complete your film, so people feel even more connected to what's going on with you. But I do think that, basically crowdfunding is getting paid to do marketing. You have to reach out to these audiences eventually anyway. You might as well get it over with early on if you're kind of averse to it, or be excited about it early on if you're into it. So.
I guess with Vimeo On Demand, the tool sets that we give you enable you now to sell your work either from Vimeo's site, either from your own site, or through our embedded player, which enables you to really reach audiences directly where they live. So identifying your audience has never been more important now for a filmmaker, and getting yourselves in the mindset when you're coming up with a story of understanding your audience, both for crowdfunding and for distribution and for theatrical, is incredibly important. And if you understand where they live, and you understand what their habits are and where they, what kind of things they're attracted to, then you can place, for example, our trailer widget in directly or in their hands. So the way that Vimeo On Demand works now is like your trailer and your film are bonded together. So wherever you share your trailer, you can actually purchase the film directly from the trailer. So collapsing the time from interest to the film to finding the film. So like beforehand, you would be going online, you would hear about a film or see a trailer, and then you would have to search for where the film was and then go to all these other layers. Now you can literally just watch a trailer, buy it right there. What this enables you to do, if you are a filmmaker who is doing a film about sports, about soccer for the World Cup right now, and it's you can literally go to all the different sporting goods stores or the sporting blogs or the different places and place your trailer there, so you can rise above the noise of independent film, where you are just going for the same types of reviews and the same types of aspects, and actually hit audiences where they are for your specific film, which is a different mindset to normal distribution.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that breaking out of that, what you were speaking to, and understanding that, even if, let's say you do get a traditional release, and they're going to put you in 5, 10 of the major markets across the country, and it's going to be for a week, and the people that are going to see those films are people that are inherently going to go see documentaries, or they're going to go see the indie film. And those audiences, while terrific, are not going to be your core audience. There's an impact audience that may not be someone that's going to see more than 1 or 2 films a year, but that represents a ton of business, whether it's a narrative or a documentary or an animation. You finding those audience and breaking out of the mindset that you're just targeting any sort of cinephiles in a way is really a good place to start.
Yeah, I think that, doing alternative distribution is not, it's really more like, supplementary distribution, because it's, you can still get a traditional distribution. It's not like, shit, I give up, I'm gonna do alternative,
Yeah, you should not think about that. No.
Yeah, I think, on all of our platforms, the direct from filmmaker to their audiences live side by side with other traditional films, traditionally distributed films, which I think gives benefits both.
Yeah, I mean, it can be either or, it can be and, it could be a hybrid of different solutions. But the one thing that I think we would all agree is like, make sure that you can sell your own work from your own website, no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, like, control your work in as much as possible. If you go to a distributor, carve that out, because in essence, you will know your audience better than a distributor will, and you will be doing that work with a distributor anyway. So you might as well have a home base for where everything lives. Yeah, I think the one thing that we were all talking about outside that's interesting for you guys to know is like, this is so new that, you know, all of our tools are, you know, less than 5 years in maturity in terms of that, and this whole space is less than 5 years in maturity, and we're all working things out together. And so, and it's really going to take filmmakers like you who are going to push it forward. And it's going to take, there's going to be the 1 or 2 projects that are going to break free and create new models by doing that. It's not going to be platforms that are going to create the new models. It's like, we're giving you the tools to create that. And I think it's like it's up to you guys.
One quick interjection, I just want to make sure, because I was so worried about rushing through the beginning so quickly. Is it clear to everybody what each of these 3 platforms are and do for filmmakers?
Maybe they can use.
Yeah, let's actually review that. I'm sorry, I had you guys rush through so quickly and didn't start with that question, but if you could describe exactly the kind of distribution thing.
Yeah.
What's that?
Say your name.
Jay Hogan. So Gather, as I mentioned, is we provide an opportunity for filmmakers to have a theatrical release, and consumers are able to pull content to their local theaters by requesting the film online. And the way that we facilitate that request is by essentially setting up crowdsourced individual screenings via essentially the Kickstarter mechanism. So every screening event that we set up at a local theater, whether that's a chain, Regal, AMC, or an independent art house, has a ticket minimum built into the event. And with promotion from the local level and from a national level and regional level, the consumer can reserve tickets to the event by pre-authorizing their credit cards. Once we reach that threshold, the screening happens and we ship the film. And that's how we work.
So like if I want to show my feature in like Peoria, Illinois, and I'm not there, I could go on and register and sign up and like essentially set up a potential screening in another place.
Right.
Is it like a given number of tickets that is the tipping threshold?
Yeah. And so all the costs that are incurred from the theater and the shipping of the film, the fee, the VPF fees, these are all set into the ticket cost. And they vary from screening to screening. Just to give you an idea, our average across the board is going to be somewhere around 55, 60 tickets that we need to sell in order to make the event happen. And once that happens, then obviously now our averages, to give you an idea, are about 150 to 170 that we get per screening. And so the initial requests that come in are generally the most difficult to get. Once we get going, and it kind of takes a hockey stick curve and really takes off virally from there. So.
What kind of format do you need to get to the theater?
So good question. So we do Blu-ray and DCP, and this kind of goes into we want to create essentially the biggest footprint of theaters that we can play in from the beginning. And in order to do that, the film needs to be on Blu-ray and DCP. We can certainly just do Blu-ray, but you're taking then theater chains down if you don't have that. By that same, on the same token, that every theater has a different rules when it comes to the content they play and the exclusivity that they get in regards to ancillary releases. So, for instance, a Regal cinema needs 90 days exclusive before any DVD, VOD, broadcast rights in order to play the film in that theater. And then some obviously will do day and date and so on and so forth.
And what happens, so let's say I say, hey, I want to show my film, and then I got 150 people who want to go. What's a typical story? Does it stay in that theater? Is that like one time, one screening, or does it stay there for a week?
It's a one-time, it's one screening.
I see.
Right.
So most of these end up being one.
Yes.
One thing I want, yeah. And then one last question just about gatherers. Is it curated at all, or can anyone with a finished film submit to the platform?
So that's a great question. We obviously have kind of an internal acquisitions process, and it's not so much. I mean, we started this as a way to bring all filmmakers and make it available for all filmmakers. For us, it's less about the content and more about the community that the film is bringing in, and then also the understanding that the filmmaker has about our process, and making sure that they are in line with what we would like to see them do. And because it's very important, it's a partnership. We don't make money unless the film makes money, and so we want to make sure that we're on the same page, and that's kind of the discussion.
How does the price breakdown work with just the theaters and gather? And
How does the what?
The price, the ticket sales and the money that is generated from
What's the percentage?
screening?
Right. So like I said, the ticket minimums are all of our fees, and we do not. You have a right as a filmmaker to possibly set in a minimum guarantee for your film, but we recommend that you do not, because we want to keep the ticket minimums as low as we possibly can. And so we do not put a gather fee into that ticket minimum. So we're taking a risk with every screening. So the next dollars on top of that, we take 25% off the gross, and that is all revenue generated after the ticket threshold is met. And so that's how it's broken out.
And Jeremy, you want to tell us about Vimeo?
Sure. Did you want to ask?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's good.
Just, so you're not involved in any of the publicity or something once it's. But if I sell 50 tickets, right, and so it goes through, it's completely up to me in terms of like getting the word out beyond that or publicity or anything like that.
Right. Well, so we as I said, it is a partnership, and so we provide a whole array of tools and templates and language for you to help to activate not only organizations and communities on a national and regional level to get the word out about this opportunity, but also language that is given to the individual hosts of each screening to help them on a more grassroots level and a local level to promote this idea and the concept, because it is a new concept for everyone. And so we provide a ton of information along those lines as well.
So Vimeo On Demand started at South by Southwest. It was our year anniversary this year. We created the platform from years of hearing from our audience and our core constituents who are using the tools, that they wanted a tool to help sell their work directly to their audiences. It's available for pro members. The pro membership is $200 a year. And what it enables you to do is to create a Vimeo On Demand page for your film, where you will need your trailer, you will need a thumbnail for your trailer, you'll need your poster, description, general overall kind of things that you would need. You get 90% of the profits to you for every sale that you make. You are able to select how much you want to charge the film for, from $1 to $500. How long the rental time period is, from 1 day to a year, and I'll explain why. You will be able to choose whether you want a single film or a series, and you will also be able to choose where in the world it's available. So all of those flexible options enable you to really figure out what is the best distribution for your film, and not try and fit a square peg in a round hole in that kind of scenario. In terms of number of things that we've developed recently, the embedded transaction is something that we launched in January. We also launched the idea of our marketing fund. It's our audience development fund, and if you are either have raised money over $10,000 on a crowdfunded platform, or you have entered into one of the major festivals, we will give you a pro account for you to be able to use the service. You will also be able to have access to our $10 million fund, where we're giving money towards filmmakers to put towards marketing for your films. So to get above the noise, to get into that marketplace, and we give it to you as a minimum guarantee advance. So what that means is, let's say we give you $10,000, you will be able to make money. The 90-10 split happens at $10,001. So we will recoup our money first, and then the split will happen there. But what we've seen with the platform that has been fascinating is like it's all different types of content that work. And traditionally, you would think that it is a theatrical 90-minute film that would be the thing that would be leading the charge, but it's not necessarily the case. As filmmakers, you should be starting to think about films that are not necessarily 90 minutes, not necessarily 60 minutes, could be 40 minutes, could be whatever, because you can sell those works. One of the works that surprised us very much on our site was a film called In the High Country. It was a 35-minute film that was sold in the High Country. It was sold for $15 and rented for $10, and it did extraordinarily well on our platform for a short film. And all they did was it was about altitude running and high extreme running, and it was profiling one character, and it was an experimental documentary, and they put it directly in the hands of that running community, and it just took off in that kind of way. So there's lots of different things that you go on to. Sure.
Yeah.
Is that connected to this?
Yes, I think that it is.
Can I play a video?
Yes.
It's only
Yes,
3
I think
minutes.
it is.
Obviously, all the crowdfunding turns over to our platform so well because you've already demonstrated that you're building an audience. You've demonstrated the marketability of your film, and so any film that has raised $50,000 or more and has a minimum of 1,000 backers is eligible for a fund. We will give a $20,000 advance that can be used not only on marketing but also the other parts of the film as well. So there is a whole section of our website that runs down the details of that. So,
Yeah, we'll send you all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
and the only thing we take from that, as far as we would have exclusive theatrical, and we would need a 90-day guaranteed exclusive window for that.
I don't know if the sound's gonna work. This might be a terrible idea.
Unplugging the speaker is a word.
Oh, is there a stroke?
How about this?
It's gonna be real
Should we
loud.
move it?
Whoa. All right, now is it gonna play? Oh wait, let me. Look at this. It's treating it like a monitor. Okay.
A revolution is happening in filmmaking. Steven Spark is building
That's not me.
independent film community. Want to know why? Let me ask you a question. Do you think raising money to make your film is the hardest part? It's not. The hardest part is getting people to see it when it's finished, no matter how good it is. Roughly 15,000 independent films are made every year. How do you stand out in that crowd? gets to watch them. You plant the seed, a great story that inspires your community. We provide the spark. It's a whole new ecosystem for truly independent film. So how do you stand out in the crowd? You gather one. It's the future of filmmaking. Seriously.
Okay, thanks for letting me do that because I'm terrible at talking about ourselves because we clearly do a lot of things.
And your offices are probably really far away, right?
Yeah, they're right here.
I have a follow-on for you. I don't know what's it. Oh, no, actually, I have a follow-on for each of you. You mentioned that there's a certain amount of exclusivity with Gather for the
With the fund.
with the fund.
With the fund.
Oh, okay.
The only rights we're taking away from the film are theatrical on-demand rights. There is one other company that does something similar, and as long as you don't go with them, you're free to keep everything else.
Cool. And then with video.
Yeah, it's same. If we give you money from the fund, we ask for a 30-day exclusive window, which is it's a little bit different for us because we allow you to have theatrical, cable VOD if you're doing those kind of things, and then we just want our window to be in the first digital window. To explain windows to you guys, if you don't know, how many of you know what windows are here? Okay. Windows are traditionally set up by, in traditional distribution, have been set up as periods of time that your film is available on an exclusive or non-exclusive basis on different platforms. Traditionally, theatrical comes first, then after that, cable VOD usually comes next, and then after that, VOD and then SVOD, which stands for subscription VOD, so like Netflix, and then following that is ad-supported stuff, which is free stuff with commercials in like Hulu in between that. So we ask for stuff in the space that is when it first goes onto line. You maintain all the rights to your film throughout this whole period. We just ask for a 30-day exclusive window, only if we give you money. Otherwise, it's a completely open platform for you.
And then Steven Spark.
Yeah, we're completely non-exclusive. You keep 80%. Anybody can submit a film for consideration, but it is a curated platform.
Cool.
Can you talk about there's always going to be outliers, like some Pebble watch or whatever.
Yeah.
It's $1 billion. But like, besides the crazy outliers, is there some like category of stuff that you guys are really excited? Like everyone in the office is like, oh my god, you got to see this. They're doing really well. We're excited. Like the one you mentioned.
Yeah.
Is there like what's the buzz for you guys? What's happening?
I would say it's those filmmakers who understand their audience are the ones that are really kind of transitioning and pushing the boundary. And like Jay said earlier, it's not the subject matter, it's more that understanding and that concept of like someone doing something different and it working and it taking off. For example, one of the films that we're working on now is we're working in partnership with Patagonia on a film called Damnation, and it's launching theatrically. It launched yesterday theatrically. Patagonia is it's a different kind of case, but it gives you a sense of what is different in the marketplace right now. Patagonia funded the film and are marketing the film as a distributor, and they're using tools like Vimeo and other platforms to release the film. But it's a independent documentary about busting dams that for salmon runs, and so it's a completely niche subject matter, but it fits ecologically perfect within Patagonia and with their audience, and the fact that they're trying to do something completely different, that's very appealing to us to work with them on that kind of level. But equally so, we've been working with a number of different filmmakers that understand their audience, and it could be someone that is doing a series that they're talking about different things. It could be an education-based series. It could be a narrative. It could be a documentary. Another thing that launched on the platform recently was Joss Whedon's film that he wrote called In Your Eyes launched literally the day that it launched at Tribeca, and there was a announcement at the end of the screening, and it was midnight on Easter Sunday. Traditionally, you would think that that's the worst time to possibly launch a film, but because it was in a festival run, Monday morning it was the only thing that people were talking about in the press, and it rose above the press in that kind of way. And it's going to take filmmakers, like I said, to push the boundaries. And Bellwether is Joss Whedon's company, where he funds all the productions himself. It was directed by Bryn Hill. It is a traditional narrative, small film that got a huge leg up from what they would normally get by trying to do something different. So it's more about understanding what the marketplace is and how things are shifting, and really taking as much control of your film as possible and having the courage to just push and do different things with it. And that's what's exciting to us at the moment.
Can I ask a question about
Sure.
what the demographics, or like people coming to the site, like just on their own to Vimeo on Demand or to See and Spark, in terms of building audience outside of the ones that we bring in ourselves? So what are you seeing in terms of like what the interest levels are for the people that are coming in directly? What kind of like, if you have any kind of demographic information, that'd be really interesting.
So we actually, it's funny that you talk about demographic, because we actually try to not think of audiences as demographics, as different kind of like, oh, this would appeal to women 18 to 24 or wherever. Definitely what Jeremy was saying earlier is when you're thinking about, I think all of this is about how are we finding our audiences, whether it's to rise above this and how you're distributing it and what sort of tactics we're using. You were saying earlier about, we were saying, just thinking about them much earlier and thinking about who they are, where they live online, what their habits are. And I think that that's very different than just females 18 to 24.
No, totally, but what I'm asking, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what benefit am I having beyond me having a place to have it that you're going to bring for me? That's what I'm just trying to figure out. So like, who else can I reach?
Yeah, and I guess, totally. So I guess what I'm saying is that, at this point, our community is 12,000 at this point, and growing every day, and the core is each filmmaker doing several different projects that are on various different things, are kind of reaching to the ends of they're the heat-seeking missiles that are getting the audiences, and once they come, they're on the site and they're seeing, oh, I can redeem my sparks. What are these movies? Like, what is this about? Like, I can do this for free. So it's basically getting people who are like vaguely interested in independent film, whether they know someone or know someone who knows someone, on the platform, and then them being like, oh, maybe I like independent film. So we're really shooting for training audiences and educating audiences that, seeing Little Miss Sunshine once every 4 years isn't like being an independent film. So we're kind of like teaching people what else is out there with independent film. But to answer your question more specifically, it really depends, minute to minute. It depends on the projects that are on our site and what the audiences for those projects are. And also on the streaming side of the platform, on whatever, we're programming thematically in slates. So kind of whatever might be being pushed at that moment might have an uptick, but it really runs, has a broad range.
Kind of a follow-on question, what are some of the data tools available to users on each of these new sites?
Before they go to that,
Oh, yeah, absolutely, sure, of course.
Can we do that? All right. So on our platform, we have 104 on the free site of Vimeo. What we've announced publicly recently is like we have, I think, we have close to 20 million registered users that have potential to watch a film, but on demand. It doesn't mean that they're all going to be coming to on demand. It's like that they are registered users. And so when we profile out to we profile certain films every month on our newsletter, and that goes out to all of those people. So that potentially you have the potential of reaching those audiences there. There are ads across our network as well for the free site, and the trailer is another embedded possibility. We have over 160 million people who come monthly to the site, But again, all of this is, these are all numbers and these are all demographics that are potentials, but it's all the work that you guys put into it. It's not necessarily because you put it up there that people are going to come and watch it. That's not going to be the case on any of our platforms. It's all about that. For a second. But one other thing that I wanted to say is like, what I think we're all talking about is converting passive audience members into patrons of your work. And once you convert them, then they become loudspeakers for you as well.
Just leave it open, Tony. It's less stuff.
160 million. That's not.
Sorry, I just asked him to make it skip a little.
Thank you.
But it's, do you guys don't mind?
Yeah, just leave it open. It's less loud.
I mean, I talk about it, you guys can hear it, it would just be at the video.
Yeah.
And like we have a always growing community as we are essentially the box office for our films. Anybody that's coming on and buying a ticket to any of our films is a registered user. Close to 200,000 at this point, and we certainly market all of our films to our users. But to this point, a lot of our films have been pretty niche, and so whether it's going to resonate, I mean, it's always changing and growing. But,
Jeremy, Movie on Demand. Is there any, I guess what I'm curious about in terms of Movie on Demand is that there's certain content that is now being put behind a paywall that was once, or that could potentially be free. Do you think there is, do you curate the material so that there is a certain case where you might go, this shouldn't be behind a paywall and this should be free?
We don't curate the work in that way. It's an open platform for people to use and for them to choose.
Yeah.
There's another tool in our service called Tip Jar where people potentially put something in a free ecosystem and then get donations if people like that at any point in watching the film. So that's separate. If we do see a film if a filmmaker approaches us and they ask us, we will tell them what we think of what will be better for their film and work it out with them. But we don't curate in that kind of way. What we do curate is we curate films onto our homepage, and we bubble up content that we think is going to be aspirational, like our staff picks on the free side, and we're building that out on the on-demand side now.
Has anything on the demand side reached the kind of numbers that the free side needs?
In terms of views?
Yeah.
Well, the difference, it's a very different kind of scenario because you are requesting someone to pay for something versus just pressing play. And so it's a different dynamic in terms of that. So no is the answer because of that, because you're actually putting a barrier before they watch something. So is that answer your question, or do you have something more specific?
No, I guess I've seen a few friends that have been using the on demand side for short films, for example,
right.
And I'm sort of my hesitation.
Shorts is a different matter.
Yeah, my hesitation in that situation is I'm like, isn't it better just to give that film away for free, where it can be seen by more people?
Okay, so on a short side, on the short side of things, it just depends.
Yeah.
It depends. Like some filmmakers, some filmmakers are choosing to go on Vimeo and get a staff pick badge is better for them than going even to a film festival.
Yeah.
But it just depends on where you are and what you want out of it. Filmmakers traditionally won't make money off of short films. Just won't happen unless it's a specific film that's made for a specific audience and it has a specific target. Then that could be a possibility. But in general, short films are usually better for exposure for filmmakers because you never know who's going to see it, which is going to lead you to your next project. And the more people that see it, the more potential you have. So it just depends. And then you can also be using a short film to start to galvanize your audience and build your audience up. There are filmmakers that we know that have launched a short film, which is a sub storyline from their feature, built up an audience from that, and driven that audience to their feature film later.
A teacher?
Yeah, that's one that did stuff similar to that. But there are a number of other films.